in terms of being that light for humanity, in terms of a better way to live and a different way to go.
Whitney Houston came many years ago, but what was it like for her? You had the pleasure of spending some time with her, and I think we all remember it made the news and all of the entertainment shows when she came here, but it sounds like it really impacted her deeply.
It was a very eye-opening and life-changing experience for her in many ways, and I remember sitting in our guest house talking to her about it, her and her family. You know, they had heard about us over the years, and her sister-in-law and her brother came and did a preliminary trip and stayed about a week here. And they went back and told her, hey, you really need to come here. It's going to be good for you. And so we were able to get together and arrange that trip. And then even after she went back, she stayed in contact with us, and even during her last tour, she was in contact with Ben Ami on a somewhat regular basis after her shows, and was planning to come back here before the tragedy of her passing.
Such a tragedy.
Yeah, but she was among those celebrities who have been here and have been impressed by the way the community lives and the positions that we take. Stevie Wonder, Blair Underwood, Megan Good. But we still did other things with the foreign ministry in terms of working across Africa and bringing other leaders across Africa and the States to come visit here. So we, I think, paved the way for these recent years of better relations across Africa in particular, because we were bringing African leaders here for years, for decades, giving them a reason to support Israel.
Here on a spiritual retreat, visiting my family in Dimona, my friends and family, the city of peace, and that's why I'm here.
You enjoyed that?
Very much.
Are you going to come again, please?
Yes, I will. Absolutely. I love Israel. Beautiful. My land. I love Israel.
Yeah, what are you going to say to the parents?
My land. My land.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
She like pulls Bobby's hand very strongly, and she doesn't want to like give the prime minister her hand, and she makes Bobby shake his hand.
Thank you.
It wasn't that she didn't shake his hand. She stepped out of the way so that he could shake Bobby's hand. Respect my husband. Man to man. Mr. Prime Minister, meet my Prime Minister.
All right. Shalom, shalom. Keepers of sheep. Brother Kashai, back with another lesson. Through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bashem Yahushua, Bashem Rakakodash. Lord's will, this video is edifying. Before we begin, I'd like to first start off by giving all praise, all honor, and all glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of the great millstone, Shalom, and Shalom to the hopeful elect. All right, and today's lesson will be titled, Whitney Houston Embraced Her Hebrew Roots. All right, and of course today's lesson is inspired through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bashem Yahushua, Bashem Rakah HaKodash. All right, but as you can see, we're making a few points off the clips played at the beginning of the video. All right, so I came across one of these clips on Instagram, and I couldn't find much. All right, so I went to TikTok and found a few other clips, and the video I found was the video where she made the prime minister at that time shake her husband's hand, Bobby, and it just it caught my attention, and it just made me think of how we've always been in a transition to, in a way turning back to the Most High Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. All right, we've always been in a transition turning back to righteousness. All right, and how this truth has always been on the scene. Okay, it may not be on the forefront. All right, it may not be on mainstream media, but it's always, our people have always they have always it always resonates. All right, it's always there. All right, they've always had that zeal. Okay, and we'll grab that real quick because, you know, if you tell our people that they're Israelites, they don't have a problem believing that. Okay, but they have a problem, you know, being that. They have a problem acting as if they're the Israelites, not acting, but they have, their problem is keeping the ways. All right, coming back to our customs. All right, calling on the true names. All right, and again, it just put me in the mind of, you know, the transition has always been there, and now that we're here and we're even closer to the end, that, you know, now it's even more obvious. All right, it's even more obvious to see, you know, who's who. All right, of course, with the curses being a main identifier, but now we have the true names. Okay, we have the understanding of prophecy. Okay, yeah, man, it's just it don't get no more clearer, right? But this is Romans 10, and I started verse 1. It says, brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to the Most High is, Shlakia, and prayer to the Most High for Israel is that they might be saved. All right, and watching this video, it makes me, you know, it makes me wish that all Israel could be saved, especially on this side, right, on this run, right? It says, brethren, my heart's desire and prayer, all right, for Israel is that they might be saved. All right, of course, we want all our people to be saved. We want all our people to repent. It says, for I bear them record, all right, that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge. So our people always had a zeal. All right, it's on the record. Okay, it's evident. You can look back in the times, even now, you can see where our people always had a zeal. All right, they always recognize Israel as being our homeland. All right, as you see, you know, she said Israel, that's her homeland. And I'm not sure about these other Israelites. I believe that's they have a village in Israel. I'm not sure. All right, but you know, of course, you know, we're not supposed to be in the homeland right now because of prophecy. So I mean, of course, there's probably some of our people still there, but I don't know anything about these Israelites, and you know, what their you know, belief, all right, is according to prophecy, right? But again, Romans 10:1, it says, brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to the Most High for Israel is that they might be saved. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of the Most High, but not according to knowledge. For they being ignorant of the Most High's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the Most High, unto the righteousness of the Most High. All right, sometimes that zeal bugs our people out. All right, sometimes that zeal, because obviously we don't supposed to be there. All right, obviously, you know, we're in captivity here in America, and wherever else the Lord has scattered us. So, you know, again, that zeal sometimes bugs us out, because that guy said, you know, you have many celebrities come over there and you know, embrace the homeland or whatever, but that's not what we're supposed to be doing, because we were exiled from that land, man. Let's get Baruch real quick. Baruch 2:30. It says, for I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people, but in the land of their captives they shall remember themselves. So it was prophecy that we will remember ourselves in captivity, all right, where the Lord has scattered us. And for the majority of us, all right, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, our captivity will be here in America, all right, North America, the United States. All right, Baruch 2:30, it says, for I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people, but in the land of their captives they shall remember themselves. All right, so it was important that we would, you know, remember ourselves here, because it's prophecy. Okay. You know, it was It was the righteous that, the Lord sent us into captivity for our transgressions. All right, this is the book of Ecclesiastes, also known as Sirach and the Apocrypha. All right. I start at verse 8. It says, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. And that's what you see. All right. Meaning, this is not our kingdom. All right. We can't go back. We can't go back to our homeland because, ultimately the Most High allow these heathen nations, all right, to set up there and live there. All right. So because of unrighteous dealings and injuries and riches got by deceit. All right. They took us out of the land, stole our riches. All right. It says the kingdom is translated from one people to another. And that's what you see because they claim that as their land now. Right. And they really believe that. So how is it that you have people like Whitney Huston claiming, this is her land, but then you have these small hatters, these 1948ers claiming that this is their land, right? Let's get Micah 2:1. It says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in their power, because it is in the power of the hand, right? It says, and they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. And that's what happened, man. All right. They did the same thing to the Native Americans. They did the same thing to us in our homeland. All right. And they claim these lands as their lands, right? Right. Let me grab one more precept real quick. Just came to mind. It says Psalms 49:11 says their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations, that they call their lands after their own names, man. So, their thought was when they set up there in 1948, all right, and then when, Columbus came over here, at that time, they thought that, this would be their homes, all right, this would be their lands forever. All right, but that's not the plan for the so-called Edomites. Well, for the Edomites, so like it for the so-called white man. All right. Let's get this in Numbers real quick. Numbers 35 and start at verse 30. It says, whoso killeth any person, the murderer shall be put to death by the mouth of witnesses, but one witness shall not testify against any person to cause him to die. Moreover, ye shall take no satisfaction for the life of a murderer, which is guilty of death, but he shall be surely put to death. And ye shall take no satisfaction for him that is fled to the city of his refuge, that he should come again to dwell in the land until the death of the priest. 33. So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are. All right, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. So ultimately, Esau, Edom has to, that blood has to be, where it says the eye for an eye, right? His blood has to be shed, all right, to cleanse the land that, he stole from the Native Americans, man. And that he stole from us, right? So with that, man, hey, this wasn't to be no long video, but hey, once again, Lord will, this video is edifying. Until next time, I'd like to close out by giving all praise, all honor, and all glory to the Most High, Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rekah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of the great millstone. Shalom and shalom to the hopeful elect.